Gather around. It's time for the show to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, this is...
Hey everyone, my name is Jason.
Hi friends, it's Desiree Josen.
Alright, there were so many matches this year that were just too much.
So this won't be a shocker because we've had a handful of really awesome matches that we just can't stop talking about.
How many times have these guys fought? Like it's been quite a bit.
I've been saying this all year. They're just so great to watch. We saw the heel turn coming, and then when it happened, nice and bloody, both dramatic and beautiful.
You are now entering the ring with Shoots and Ladders podcast. Here are your hosts, Desiree and Jason.
Shoots and Ladders Spotlight, Hangman Page. What's going on, everyone? My name is Jason.
Hi friends, it's Desiree Josen.
All right, from anxious millennial cowboy to world champ to folk hero of the AEW faithful, we are going to ride shotgun and shine the spotlight on Hangman Page. Des, what are your initial thoughts?
Hey, let's do some cowboy shit. I love this. I think it's perfect timing, and it's well deserved to put a spotlight on Hangman.
I'm 1000% with you. What a triumphant victory. First thing we're going to go over is from Bullet Club Outcast to AE Original, how Hangman has carved out his identity. Do you think fans relate to his insecurity and self-doubt more than any other star?
I think so. And I think it's very refreshing to see someone, especially a male athlete in this kind of business, to be very vulnerable and very upfront and honest about saying, I'm not good enough, or I feel like I'm overshadowed, and I self-doubt myself. And I think that's very common in everybody. So that's very relatable. So I think that's why the fans really love him and are rooting for him, because he's really the underdog. Even in his original story, he's a pillar of AEW and, one of the first ones signed, but he was under the wing of Kenny Omega and Young Bucks. So, he's always behind them. So I get it. It makes sense for him to do that. But we're growing with him, and watching his journey gain his confidence. So the fans love him for that exact reason.
Yeah, 1000%. You said it right, especially being a male. I know a lot of males like to keep that in. But you know what? We actually have an anxiety issue across the board, especially amongst the younger audience. So for a role model athlete to basically say, hey, this is what I'm going through, I definitely think this resonates, and I think it's a brilliant idea. Whether it's, I think this is where a gimmick actually kind of coincides with real life. So it's actually very, very impressive.
Yep.
All right. His complex story with Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, the most layered long-term story in AEW history. Do you think Hangman was justified in walking away, or was he his own worst enemy?
It's a little bit of both, don't you think? Yeah. Because he's in his head a lot. So it's not... I think it's just more of him projecting, like we said, his own fears and self-doubt. So, even though he had these big forces, these bigger guys in front of him as competitors, he was his own worst enemy. And, and he's the one who was holding himself back. He was smart for walking away and being that lone cowboy, because, that was the only way he was going to learn and really face those inner battles and the physical battles. So, yeah, I think it was the smartest thing to do, just for him to be who he is now.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think it was great that they were together for that period of time. Everything does come to an end, but it definitely kind of ascended him to new heights and allowed him to spin off. This is very common in wrestling. You join a faction, you kind of build yourself, and then you eventually kind of spin off. So, yeah, this was a more unique given his actual role, but yeah, I think everything kind of worked out.
Yeah, and even with the long-term storytelling, that's one thing I wanted to really hit on, was because AEW usually does short-term storytelling, or at least that's just what is consistent in their production. But with Hangman, he's had years, year-long feuds and year-long storylines of the same thing. So that's one thing I can appreciate about him. They have really, bet on him to be one of the top guys.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, let's talk about rivalries. You have Omega, Moxley, Punk, Swerve. Which feud elevated him the most? Which opponent brought out the best version of Hangman?
I have two. I'm going to go with Kenny Omega for the beginning, just because it's Kenny Omega. And, he already was a force to be reckoned with in the very beginning of AEW. And so when he was tagging with Kenny, it helped bring a name to Hangman. And then when they had that feud together and he finally won the title from Kenny in 2021, that was huge. That was like his big thing. But then I also say in the second half of his career, or at least where we are right now with him, I'm going to say Swerve, because Swerve brought out a beast in him, and that made him super confident. That was the one that really pushed him to be like, I can do this on my own, and I'm going to beat the hell out of everybody, and no one's going to take anything from me. So I'm going to say Kenny and Swerve.
Yeah, I'm actually, listen, those are great choices. I'm going to say Kenny Omega elevated him the most. It was it was personal, it was emotional, and career defining, but I'm also going to say Moxley, because that brought out the most violent, unfiltered version of Hangman we've ever seen. That Texas death match wasn't just a win, it was a statement.
Yes.
All right. So when he finally put down Moxley, where does that moment rank in his career? And was it the most important moment of his career?
This is tough, because I go back and forth with Kenny and Mox. I'm gonna say it's in his top two at the moment. The reason why is just because, or I can do a 1A and 1B. I'll pull a U, and because the first time it was when he won his first AEW championship from Kenny in 2021, which was huge, because that was really the breaking point of him as a character, and really elevated him. But then with Mox, this has completely transformed him into one of the top stars. And it showed a completely different side from him. And exactly what you said, it was dirty and it was gritty, and no one can do a Texas death match like Hangman. So, and this title run is going to be so much fun this go around, to see him just be a force of nature for this company.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to say it is Mox, because this wasn't just about pride and pain. This was proving that Hangman was AEW's toughest. And there's no better person to prove that against but Mox. I mean, that match cemented Hangman as the more than just a former champ. It made him undeniable. So I'm going to go with Mox.
Good choice.
All right. So now, who should Hangman feud with next? I mean, some potential matchups are going to be Ospreay, Bryan Danielson, potentially again, Christian Cage, MJF rematch, or even Okada. What do you think?
We got a little taste of Will a few months ago for the Owen Hart tournament, and I want to see so much more of that, just because I felt like their promos were really good together, their chemistry, but the fact that they are just amazing athletes that can put on a show, and they're so passionate, I think him and Will would be great. It would be kind of a surprise to see him interact with MJF, for him to be such a cocky jerk, and then Hangman put him in his place. That would be pretty fun to see, but Will is on the top of my list.
Yeah, I'm going to go Ospreay too. Just everything what you just said. I mean, that would just be super electric. I think we will see the best versions of both wrestlers happen in that feud. So I'm going to go Ospreay. But again, I think he's going to have a couple of feuds, and they're all going to be great.
Yeah.
All right. Now, what are your final thoughts about Hangman?
I love him. I think he has worked really, really hard. And, being one of the first guys, or like I said, he was a pillar of AEW and to see him fight from the bottom and multiple times. And I swear, he has just worked his ass off to get these titles. We can't help but want to celebrate him. And I just cannot wait to see, since he took the strap off Moxley, how this is going to go. It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah. And with you, I think the torch has been passed. And this was arguably AEW's most victory when it passing of the torch. I think you love this. It kind of reminds me when Shawn Michaels beat Bret Hart and he was the guy. I mean, I'm kind of getting those vibes for this.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be good.
All right. That actually wraps up this episode of our Spotlight on Hangman. What are your thoughts? Please shoot us a DM at the Shoots and Ladders. And like always, please like, share, and subscribe both on YouTube and Spotify. Once again, my name is Jason.
I'm Desiree Josen.
All right. Until next time, have a blessed day and a blessed week.
Have a great week. Bye, friends.
This has been Shoots and Ladders. Follow us for more content